So the
Me
George Floyd,
too.
let's use the George Floyd incident is an example that is pretty dang clear cut. You know, that maneuver probably should not have been a maneuver that was allowed by the Minneapolis PD. It was an allowed maneuver. I don't think this officer definitely did not implement it correctly. 8.5 minutes on anybody's neck is not the way
Yeah,
that you
it
do that,
just
especially in handcuffs. I mean, sure, he was a big dude, but he didn't even look like he was resisting all that much. It's just, that was bad. This guy definitely deserved to go to jail and needs to be held accountable for
hmm
what he did. And that was a horrendous thing that happened. But then what happens after this is everybody starts piggybacking or piling on all of the previous things that have happened. And so then you start to hear things like the Trayvon Martin case, or the Mike Brown case, or some of these other cases that or that kid the young boy, right, his last name is Rice, I forget his first name, a young 12-year-old boy in I believe Cleveland, Ohio, was shot and killed by a police officer because he was aiming a toy gun at him, but it looked like a real gun.
I heard the story, but I don't remember the name for that one. And there's
Yeah,
just so
his
much coming at me that I'm like, I can't even process it
it's
all either.
crazy. It's
It's a
crazy,
lot,
but
man.
the thing that really bothered me on this last George Floyd case wasn't the George Floyd case. When I looked at that, I was like, dude, this is horrible. You know what I
hmm
mean? This is awful. But then all of the other things start to kind of come out, and they start referencing things like Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin, and they're saying things that are factually incorrect.
hmm
Like Mike Brown was running away with his hands in the air. That's factually incorrect and was proven incorrect by over 24 independent witnesses, many of whom were Black. And they said, no, he did not have his hands up. He was charging at the officer, and he had his hand in his waistband as if he was going to reach for a gun.
mm
You know, another thing about the Mike Brown case is that he was beating the crap out of that officer in his own patrol car, reaching for his gun, confirmed through DNA. Mike Brown's DNA was found on the police officer's handgun, on the police officer's uniform, and on the inside of the police officer's patrol vehicle, which is
mm.
consistent with him trying to beat up the officer and trying to get a hold of his gun. So that was a part of this. The Trayvon Martin case, that's also a very tragic one. I do think that was one that did not have to happen. That man, George Zimmerman, I think his name was.
Yeah, he's
He,
still
you know,
free and doing all
he's
types of
still
stuff now.
free. He did not have to contact this young man. He did not have to go up to him like he did. That was unnecessary. Um, However, he did do that, and then what happened was Trayvon Martin started to beat him up. This George Zimmerman, I believe, had a fractured nose. He was beat up. He was getting his butt kicked. Now, that's not an excuse for having to pull a trigger or shoot somebody, but I wasn't there, and I think those facts don't necessarily get played in the media.
hmm
A lot of times they just say, oh, George Zimmerman gunned down an unarmed black kid, and it's like, gun down implies that this person was running away and you're shooting him in the back, or this person was just hunting for a black man to kill.
It was
um,
the fractured nose thing, that is that public knowledge, or is that only something you kind of were privy to? Or I didn't know that either, but
no,
I haven't looked a lot of these cases. I haven't looked that much in depth into. Like, I'll see the video and I'll understand that someone passed away, but I don't know. I'm not even
I
as well informed as I'd like to be either.
it is public information. You kind of have to dig for it. And
hmm
that's the other thing that I've realized is, you have to do your due diligence. You have to actually
You do.
read the article. You have to read the article that you see. And I know you actually posted this recently on your social about clickbait and how fucking media is the real enemy
It
here. You know what I
is.
mean?
It really
Um,
is, and it's become more and more apparent the more like I talk to
it
people.
I was sent an article of a Hispanic man. They described him as a Hispanic or a Mexican man gunned down by police. Now, this was relatively recently, like 6 weeks ago. So, Hispanic man gunned down by police. That basically implies that he was assaulted in some way, or he was
hmm
targeted for some reason that was unjust, or something. But you open up, and that's the article. That's the way that the article is headlined. So of course you click on it, right? Because we want to
hmm
believe. We now, at this point now, a lot of Americans want to believe that cops are out killing brown people or dark people,
Absolutely.
and And so you read the article, and this Hispanic man had a gun, and he was at a gas station where there was people around, and I don't know the
I feel like I
circumstances
did hear
about
someone
why.
talking about this story.
He was at the gas station, and I don't know the circumstances, if he was robbing the place or if he was there to actually hurt somebody or if he was just a psychologically disturbed person. But he was there at a gas station with a gun, and he was refusing to drop the gun, and the police shot and killed him. And so you think, okay, well, God, like, the cops were doing their job, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, this guy,
the
like,
cops are being cops.
the cops were doing exactly what they were being paid to do and exactly why they got called there. They weren't looking for a Hispanic man to kill. They got called there. So you have to be careful with the media. And I think that now, again, now that I'm 3.5 years removed from law enforcement, I'm having to do my own digging. But if you dig hard enough and if you dig long enough and you essentially read, multiple articles on the same incident,
You do.
you'll start to piece together certain things, and you'll start to notice that certain articles will kind of leave out certain details that other articles will not leave out. And then it bothers me, because it's like, well, then who the heck do I trust, right? Do I trust
That
this one? Do I trust this one?
that
And it's challenging to trust. It really is challenging to trust. But I think that a lot of times, if you just took a step back, read the article, critically thought about the incident, and read a handful of articles on the same thing from multiple sites, like, read one from a very left-wing media source, read one from a very right-wing, try to read one from somewhere in between, try to read like a local newspaper who doesn't necessarily have vested interest in getting clicks. Those types of things are going to help you get a greater understanding for what exactly happened based on the individual incident.
Yeah, that's something that that has become even more apparent to me during this time, because the more I realize, like, being on just being, of one mindset at one point, and then being like, okay, what else is going on? And then reading stuff of the opposite side, and just seeing that different things were highlighted, same story, but different things kind of altered and perceived. Like, I was like, okay, there's more to this than just, it seems like things are more bait, clickbait for attention, and then kind of feeding to whatever you're looking for, you're going to see inside that article, and they're going to give it to you. And the other side is going to do the same thing. So finding out what's true and what's actually like the real thing is kind of the quest that I'm on now, even more. And one of the biggest things, like, even like us being in the fitness industry, me knowing what like the fad diets and how that looks in the media, I was like, okay, if they're doing this to food for like your health, I can't imagine them doing it for politics or what they're doing. Like, it's that same, like, I have enough understanding of what goes into fat loss or weight loss or whatever fitness trend they have going on. Conceptually, I have enough knowledge to say that, okay, I know that's bullshit. I know that's being hyped up. I know that's exaggerated. So now that I know that they do that, like, instinctively, like, I already know that anything that I'm being fed has an agenda. And like, I'm just seeing it now. I don't know if more people are of that same mindset, or if more people are more extreme. Like, there's just like more, like, most people that I talk to are pretty level headed, but when we get into like that tribal group thing, it's just like us and them, and the media is really trying to feed that us and them clash. That's like what they're thriving off right now.
And they're doing it very well, and it's definitely not by accident. It is an election year, and Democrats and Republicans are fighting against each other for votes. Historically, African Americans vote Democrat, and so a lot of Democrats are going to be really, really pumping the Black Lives Matter movement up and
They are.
defunding the police, because that's what they know is going to get them the vote from a certain demographic. So yeah, you have to just stop and think. And that my biggest suggestion to anybody who is trying to go down a quest or a journey of understanding both sides a little bit better is force yourself outside of your comfort zone. And this is just in life in general, right?
Yeah.
Like, that when you grow, you are just outside your comfort zone. So your comfort zone, let's say you're an extreme liberal, your comfort zone is in, the liberal media, and you're going to be reading things that already confirm your predisposed beliefs. But what you need to do to have a well-rounded understanding of what's going on is consume right-wing stuff, consume your right-wing material and your media, because at least you start to have an understanding of where they're coming from. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to listen to them or read their articles with the intent to like switch sides, quote unquote, switch sides. And I hate
Mhm.
saying that, right?
I
I
know, I
hate
hate
saying
saying
that
it too,
there's
but it's like it's you have to get the message
we are
across.
divided. Yes, we are divided. I mean, I think the vast majority of people in this country are somewhere in between, and that's the encouraging thing. It's just that the loudest voices are the ones that we hear, and those are the
Mhm.
most extreme
Those are the
ones, and
most
those are the
extreme.
most extreme
Absolutely.
left and the extreme right. It's just like, not every Muslim is a terrorist, right? Like a
Mhm.
very small percentage of Muslims are international terrorists, but for some reason we think Muslim, we think terrorist, right? But it's like that's obviously not the case.
Mhm.
And just because you say you think, Republican doesn't necessarily mean that you say you think anti-Black Lives Matter, right? It's just it doesn't necessarily ring true for everybody. But going back to my point is consume media and listen to podcasts, read blogs, watch YouTube videos that are against your belief with the intent to simply understand where the other side is coming from. Because the more you understand the side, the more information you're going to be consuming. But what you can also start doing is try your best. Let's just say you are an extreme left. Go to the extreme right, listen to a video, watch a YouTube video, listen to a podcast, read a blog. Pick, a handful of things out of that and fact check it. Look into the individual pieces that they're trying to convince you of, and go do your own research on that one thing. And so like that's the journey that I went down about a month and a half ago or so, which was, God, I want to understand everything about redlining. I want to understand everything about like school district zones. I want to understand everything about like food deserts and what that's all about. And I want to understand about like, is the police brutality thing an actual real thing? Like, I want to know the statistics about that. And
Mhm.
I went down the line and I just kind of like, I started like checking certain boxes, like, okay, I have a better understanding of that now. So when I see an article that's, very swayed or biased, I will be able to have some sort of context of that topic so that I can either call bullshit or I can say, yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
And I just encourage everybody to do that. And it's uncomfortable. That's the thing. That's
It
that's why
definitely is.
it's uncomfortable to hear because, you know, um, although I'm kind of a libertarian at heart. I think
I think I'm similar as well.
I have very conservative social views, but I have very liberal social views, but I have very conservative kind of financial views. So I think I'm still learning about all this stuff even as we speak. But that's just kind of what it's hard to hear. Certain things are hard to hear, but when they're hard to hear, that means that that's an issue within yourself. So if you're having a hard time listening to certain media sources or reading them, that's an indicator that you have some sort of growth to do inside, so that you can hopefully you can empathize with both parties, understand both parties, and have some sort of a productive conversation with them.
Absolutely.